Star Citizen 2021 was by far the biggest year for Star Citizen to date for many reasons, at least from my point of view. Let's take a look at what occurred throughout the year, what was added to the game, what missed the mark, and where are we now. This is Star Citizen 2021, a perfectly ordinary summary by BoredGamer. We had what became something of a major release in February of 2021 with the first patch of the year, Alpha 3.12.1, which brought with it the first major in-game event, Xenothreat. This had been delayed from the end of 2020, as it wasn't quite ready then. Basically, this event was a two-part mission. A cargo retrieval mission where you and whoever was on the server with you that could jump in and help you had to clear out an area that had derelict ships on, and then board them, get the cargo that was on those ships back to a nearby military outpost, and Javelin there. The Javelin could also be attacked by a small fleet of ships, including an Idris, which you would need to repel, and they used three types of cargo. The new cargo in this mission as well, so you had to be careful transporting them. One was time sensitive, another would explode if you went into quantum, and another would explode if you took too much damage or you jostled it too much. Don't shake that cargo! The second part of the mission was to participate in a fleet battle, supporting that aforementioned Javelin in a combat against the Xenothreat fleet and a couple of Idris. So it was quite an interesting thing. It was a big PvE fleet battle that loads of people could get involved with. It didn't matter. Once you turned up on the server, you could just get involved with it if it was going on. And yeah, that was really, really interesting. Now, there were some problems here. Those two missions were hugely disjointed. They weren't immediately contiguous. They're sort of like a couple of days later is when the second mission came out. And when we did have the second part of that mission set for Xenothreat, it was only on for a couple of days and then gone. Done. There were bugs. Players got criminal ratings for tiny amounts of friendly fire. There wasn't proper PvP for the event, and players would turn up trying to sort of have some PvP and blow up the cargo ships that were transporting the cargo, and you couldn't really do much about that because some of that cargo was volatile and would explode very quickly, so it was sort of like a very low effort. Haha, you dead. That said, the fleet battles were amazing, and it was a huge step forward for the game. Also, as part of that patch, they did some tweaks and all that sort of jazz, as they always do, but they also removed Delamar from the game, which was a little upsetting, as Delamar was a pretty built-out zone, but it is supposed to be in the Nyx system, not in the Stanton system. It was only temporarily there. This was also removed partly to help with server performance, but also because at some point in the not-too-distant future, we're going to have the Pyro jump point, which is probably going to be floating around where Delamar was floating. It made sense to get the star system in order, to be honest. Alpha 3.13 was released to live on the 22nd of April, and actually the first real major release of the year. We had the Cyclone MT variant and a very disappointing Rock DS, standing for dual seater or something like that. It's just a rock, little mining vehicle, but it was really poorly thought out, in my opinion, at least at the moment. Not much use in game. It has an external seat for someone else to use the mining laser at the same time as someone else is driving around. It just, two rocks would be better. But anyway, feature-wise, ship-to-station docking was added, parasite docking with the Constellation and P-52, being able to dock and undock with each other, ship degradation, which looks very pretty. There was force reactions, having people knocked over and stunned, subcomponents for mining lasers, the start of shield updates, adding the Xenothreat cargo. So Xenothreat's gone, but the actual cargo they had for the cargo side of the mission was put into cargo missions, so you actually had volatile cargo in game properly. There was pushable trolleys that were very buggy, admittedly. Better asteroids, as well as station and environmental improvements. Actually, these environmental improvements were fantastic. Moons and planets were already looking good, but now they sort of like really look great. And Cloud Imperium have been doing that from patch to patch, updating the graphics, and what they're able to do with their tech improves quite significantly each year, it seems. They also added cave entrances and sort of sinkhole gameplay, so it's basically some variation to underground areas and sort of missions there. It was a bit underwhelming at the time, to be honest. The reputation system, though, started to appear in game here as well, which was massively important. So this had the game tracking your progress and ratings with bounty hunting and assassination missions. You'd basically get extra rewards for doing them for a long period of time, and you could see NPCs how they like favoured you because you'd done missions for them, all that sort of jazz. This again is a massive step for the game, tracking another metric along with sort of Alpha UEC gear and ships. Reputation was added to that sort of pantheon of things that we need to track with players. This also saw the start of ship naming. You could name a ship on the RSA website, and that would be displayed on your ship in-game. That said, it was only a limited amount of ships, and still is only a limited amount of ships. You can do this with the Hammerhead, Reclaimer, Mercury Star Runner, 600i, 890 Jump, and Carrack. The names have to be unique within the hull group, so you can only have, in the whole entire universe, there can only be one Carrack called the Enterprise, but there can also be one 600i called the Enterprise and one Mercury Star Runner called the Enterprise. It's an interesting system, but super important for customization of ships. Though this implementation had little tiny letters for the ship names, and obviously they're trying to improve that. And in May, and part of that 3.13 patch cycle, we had Invictus Fleet Week. This is one of the big yearly events that Star Citizen has, and this had a load of combat-orientated ships, flyable for free from an expo hall in-game that you could visit, and you could also buy them from the website. It makes Cloud Imperium a ship ton of money, but this Fleet Week had something more than the previous ones. So we had an interior tour of a Javelin at the event. You were able to go in, look around, that was cool. There was also the giant Bengal carrier flying around with the UE fleet doing a space parade in the game. So this had new tech for NPC turrets and is the first steps towards AI blades, or having our ships have AI controlled turrets if we want them. But seeing these giant ships flying around and just going, look, big capital ship, wow, and fleets flying around and cool things to do during these events is really, really entertaining and good for the game. They're very cool. They also had the very cool and large Hercules Starlifters C2 and M2, which have become fan favourites, and the Nova Tonk was made all flyable and drivable in game. The Scorpius X-Wing like heavy fighter went on concept. We had a treat at the end of May with Tony Zurovic going over updates and plans for all the important quantum and dynamic universe simulation stuff that the game is going to have in a bit more detail, how it's going to track NPCs, encounters, affect prices, generate missions, and make every day fun to play in the verse is the sort of idea, but also it be relevant and appropriate to what's happening in the verse and all sort of like connect together. Later in June, we saw the Gatak Rylan go on sale, the Xi'an cargo ship that's still in concept. Star Citizen Alpha 3.14 released August 6th after a much longer than expected PTU cycle. This added Crusader as an actual gas giant into the game rather than just being a placeholder, and its landing zone Orzon. For me, this is the best looking location in game to date. They had their sort of first implementation of volumetric clouds used for something this big, and they had them everywhere. They were a bit buggy at the time, but they've since seen a lot of polish. The whole area is a solid step up from previous zones in sort of visual quality and fidelity. We saw a load of combat and flight changes in game that continue to be rebalanced even to date. The new power management system saw capacitor gameplay, and power choices matter. Laser weapons had an ammo supply which can regenerate. Ballistics were heavily limited by ammo capacity. We had missile operator mode, separating it from the standard piloting and combat, as well as a big missile update. There were radar and scanning updates, improved HUDs. The Constellation Taurus finally turned up after being delayed for basically many years. As part of the patch cycle, we also had the Nine Tails lockdown, which was a little disappointing, to be honest. It was more of a PvP orientated event. They had a station being locked down, which could obviously change what station's being locked down. Players then had to go there and either protect or destroy ships that were trying to scan down the source of the lockdown and try and aid their side, whether they want to sort of aid with Crusader security or with the Nine Tails. There were opportunities to make some good money from medical supply cargo running at the same time, but there weren't actually many players participating in these events. At least there weren't that many from the criminal side, even when there were players participating, because it was hugely biased towards lawful players, giving much more of a risk and little reward for criminal players, and there wasn't really much of a reward to get involved with that anyway. It was sort of like a reasonable amount of effort. It took a long time to travel to these areas. Why would you be there normally anyway? It was up for a little while and then got taken down, and Cloud Imperium are going to be putting it up again in the future with a few more tweaks. Now, Xenothreat 2.0 is an example of some of the tweaks that they can make, because this turned up around the same time as well. And it was genuinely great, with lessons learned from the first version earlier in the year. Friendly fire was tweaked, the missions immediately followed each other, the event was on for a long period of time, there were a boatload of bug fixes, performance was better, AI was better, there were even reputation rewards for participating. It is the most fun I've had in Star Citizen to date, Xenothreat 2.0 by some margin. The fleet battle portion is just fantastic. It is a good laugh, it is a easily accessible, you can just go to that event when it's happening and fight, and you don't feel like you're going to get absolutely annihilated, wrecked. You can sort of engage at your own sort of pace, and yeah, there's capital ships fighting each other, there's a load of other things going on. You could just talk to other players that turn up. The cargo mission was tweaked so that players couldn't easily just sort of come along and wreck your day and blow up everything. It was great to see Cloud Imperium go, bam, let's improve this event. And yeah, what they had done with that was really, really good. And I hope there was a Xenothreat 3.0 next year. We also had the Ship Showdown, which had players voting on their favourite ships, and then that influences some skins and flair later in the year. This year, the Cargo one, which was a bit of a surprise because it memed its way to the top and it caused a bit of polarisation in the process with some community peoples. That said, it was literally the most popular by vote and a bit of fun. That's what the showdown's all about. October saw CitizenCon 2951 as a pre-recorded event rather than a physical fan fest, which it normally is, but there was COVID and then they didn't know if it's going to have lockdowns and things. So this had a load of interesting panels, updates on server meshing, dynamic features, what's happening with Vulkan, what's happening with sharding. The main focus though was on the new 400i and new outposts that were going to be in the Pyro system, pretty new clouds, and this mission walkthrough that they showed off, done in 3 different ways. They have this sort of gameplay demo each year, and this one wasn't as much of a wow factor as they've done in previous years. However, it was much more realistic to what's going to be in our hands in the short term for gameplay, was the idea. And they went, look, this is some of the missions we've got planned, and this is get the Hydation artifact, and you can do it stealthily, you can do it quite aggressively, you can do it just by buying it. We saw updates to the Banning Merchantman as well at CitizenCon, which is now in production, a new concept ship, the Anvil Liberator, versatile light carrier for vehicles, troops and ships. But there was just a huge host of Star Citizen information, and if you want to see everything that was announced at CitizenCon and the breakdown of all the panels and everything, please check out my channel and the CitizenCon sort of playlist there, because that will go through everything like that. Alpha 3.15 was released November 10th again. This was quite a delay from its planned end of September rough date, but this is probably the best Star Citizen patch we've had ever, by some margin, in terms of playability and accessibility for me, and sort of success in getting new features in that sort of worked pretty well. There was a medical update that included third-party healing with medical tools, statuses, hospitals, down states rather than death, so you can actually rescue people and you can get your teammates up and drag their bodies and all that sort of stuff. Reasons to do all of that sort of gameplay. We had FPS bunker missions to help defend or clear out enemy NPCs that made use of spawn lockers, so enemies can spawn in areas now out of sight and then sort of come up in lifts and stuff. There were boss fights and waves of NPCs, and you had friendlies there with you that were NPCs, though there were some issues with friendly fire. I mean, that you could sort of accidentally peck a guard and then all of the NPCs there would murder you, or NPCs wouldn't spawn, so you couldn't complete a mission because you need to get one more kill. When they work, they're actually pretty good fun, and there's lots of updates that have gone into that now since. There was also massive inventory updates, local inventories on ships and at locations, drag and drop equip system, looting of bodies, loot containers can be found at points of interest with interesting loot inside. We got the Hercules A2, which is the big bomber variant with the mother of all bombs, that really just go and destroy everything on the ground in pretty short order. The Horizon landing zone grew, with some new locations there. Clouds improved further as well. The patch was also the first time we've had a wipe in like 18 months. So our PVC, ship's gear, reputation, that all got reset. You'd still start the game with any promotions, any starter packs, any ships you'd bought with real money, but it was a chance for a lot of players to start playing again and grinding, because lots of players had, huge amounts of merits and huge amounts of credits and all that sort of stuff, which made certain elements of the game very easy. Or what's the reason to play? Well, I suppose just to test the game, but if you wanted to actually make money, there was no need if you already had tons of money, but now you can make money again, and it made 3.15 much more viable to play, much more interesting in my opinion. The IAE, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2951, started mid-November, along with the drop of 3.15.1 as a patch. I thought that Fleet Week had been pretty big, but the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo smashed the previous funding records and had a huge amount of players try out the game for the first time during its free fly. There was an expo with pretty much every ship that's available in-game to try and see, and all of them on sale on the website. A load of vehicles were released with the Spartan NPC, and then they released the actual Redeemer to be flyable, the updated version, the Argo Raft, a new cargo ship that was straight to flyable. We also had the Ares Iron Inferno, which were made flight ready. There was a Mysk Odyssey, which was a very large exploration ship that went on concept. It looks to be a direct competitor to the Carrack, and some people were a bit polarized in the fact that, well, Cloud Imperium, or at least some of Cloud Imperium, described it as a Carrack killer, and other people were like, is this just ship power creep? How is this ship different? And the debate is still ongoing, with players going, well, it looks like the Carrack is much better at mapping, or at least mapping certain things and exploring in certain ways, compared to the Odyssey, which is just very mobile and super long distance because it is able to mine. It is able to, well, mine its own quantum fuel anyway. The ships are supposed to be different. They are supposed to be for slightly different purposes, or reasonably different purposes within the exploration umbrella, but we do need more gameplay associated with exploration, a huge amount more gameplay, and then we need these ships to then be brought into their own and actually have more to do, rather than just be, at the moment, glorified paperweights or very good multi-crew ships. So if the Odyssey was in game, it'd be a fantastic multi-role, multi-crew ship, and the Carrack is fantastic for mission running and multi-crew, but there's a lot more that those ships need to actually be viable in-game. Cloud Imperium had some pretty impressive marketing material and cool videos with their Space Jeremy Clarkson, Jax McCleary parody of Top Gear throughout the event as well. They can certainly make cool little shorts. Alpha 3.16 was released December 21st. However, it had dropped a lot of content due to the time restrictions and various other delays. Technically, the 3.16 patch is actually the 3.15 branch of the game, updated sort of manually with the features in it. So realistically, it should be called 3.15.2. However, the patch does contain some solid updates, lots of fixes and sort of that sort of stuff. Area 18's hospital is in there, a big Gravlev hoverbike update, which actually has those ground vehicles working significantly better. There's bounty hunting in atmosphere now, lots of fixes, the Dying Star map has been made big, there's lore updates, and a new Jumptown 2.0 event, which is really the highlight of the patch. It basically has 3 different areas, so Jumptown, Raven's Roost, and another one, Paradise Cove, I think. Yes, Paradise Cove. You have these 3 drug labs, and one of them can become activated, or all of them can become activated at once, and then you have to go there and take control of that drugs lab that's producing a large amount of narcotics for free, and there's a huge amount of profit to be made there by selling that, either at Grimhex or at the local sort of planetary station to the security forces there, because you're basically confiscating them in that regard. Now, what they've tried to capture here is some friction with what is going to happen here when this event is on. And it can be on or off, and at the moment it's on a schedule, but there's a bit of carnage there sometimes. Sometimes it's really friendly and people are queuing to get these sort of packages and helping each other. Some people are holding the door. It's a mixture of really friendly and a bit mad. Those outposts have been updated somewhat as well, so they're a bit better for combat. There's lots of cover and stuff there going on. Although the A2 just win on the ground, it just drops a bomb, everything's destroyed from pretty high altitude. They stuck in a new ship too with the Cutlass Steel, a dropship variant of the Cutlass, with 18 jump seats for Marines and a load of mounted guns for them to use. Some people were a bit upset that it was $235, I think, for the ship, which is a lot more than I would have expected the ship to be. I was hoping it would be just shy of $200, sort of like maximum, but it is a lot going on with it. Get it in game, I would say, when it's available to actually get in game, probably in the next major patch. We also had a Luminalia, which was basically Space Christmas, and some freebies from a calendar on the RSA website through December as well. It was a nice little treat, and they also unveiled a new hoverbike from Consolidated Outland. that has yet to go on sale. 2021 was another record breaker. Star Citizen raised over $85 million this year alone, which is actually probably closer to $100 million if you include subs and other income as well. I've seen a softening of the media to Star Citizen with lots of more positive or neutral headlines rather than sort of like Star Citizen is bad scam or it's people spend far too much money on Star Citizen basically being the sort of headlines I used to see. Now it's sort of like appreciating and celebrating its accolades. Cloud Imperium have the new turbine-added studio that's focusing on star systems and planets. They've announced a massive 1,000-person studio opening in Manchester, which will replace their UK operations in 2022, as well as their Frankfurt studio moving to a larger place in Frankfurt. There were obviously disappointments during the year beyond what we've already talked about. Mainly for me, it was hacking and salvage being pushed back into 2022, as well as another year without pyro and server meshing and things like that. Star Citizen is slow in its development, and when we see delays, which we do, they're disappointing, especially when we have like roadmaps which we think those features are going to actually be in the next patch and that sort of stuff. They're quite transparent with what their plans are, but their plans don't always come together. There was a big lack of Squadron 42 content being shown this year, very much by choice from Cloud Imperium. However, Chris Roberts and a lot of operations are moving to the UK in 2022, early in 2022, to see Squadron 42 finished out, I believe. I've neglected to mention some community stuff like the Daymar Rally in 2021 and the Stanton 7 races, some PvP ship combat competitions, and a whole bunch of other fantastic events that really go a long way in showing that Star Citizen has a dedicated creative community already. I think that Cloud Imperium engaged with the community pretty well this year in terms of QAs, dev posts and replies, and their content on the YouTube channel. There's always a huge amount of room for improvement there though, and sometimes Cloud Imperium missed the mark or a bit tone deaf with some of the stuff that the community want. I'm not, for example, happy with the Ares Ion being nerfed in the latest batch, but that's a whole nother story. I do wish we had seen more of Chris Roberts throughout the year. There was very little of Chris this year, and I would like to see him at least quarterly talking about the patches and giving us a bit of a newsletter. That makes sense. He is the king in the north. No, he is the creator of the Star Citizen, and I want to hear what he has to say. BoredGamer, like me, has grown to over 170,000 subscribers on the YouTubes, but there's a huge amount of other sort of adoption on other platforms, and the people seeing on Twitch, and we've got social medias and Discord community. We produce nearly daily Star Citizen content. Actually, I think we've probably produced more than one video a day on average this year. We have a full-time editor in addition to myself now with Zinnia, and she seems to be enjoying herself and is getting better at editing, which is good because I'm terrible at it. And I'm loving covering Star Citizen more than when I originally started, so that's also a good thing. I'm planning on covering the game, its news, and much, much more in the years to come. I absolutely adore my community. I think you guys are fantastic. I've been so well supported this year for a bunch of reasons, and yeah, I like the fact that people reach out and talk, and everyone seems pretty friendly and pretty civil. It's fantastic. And I'd like to thank everyone that watches my channel, gets involved in my comments, or that's a Patreon or a YouTube channel member, anyone that's gone the extra mile to support us, anyone that hasn't, that's just said hello. It's all super appreciated. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good or at least bearable 2021 and have a much better 2022. Happy New Year, and I'd love to know what you think of 2021. Star Citizen in the comments below. What were the triumphs and failures of this year from your point of view from Cloud Imperium? Did you buy any ships? Did you enjoy Xenothreat 2.0? Do you think was the Xenothreat 3.0 in 2022? Are you enjoying 3.16 and Jumptown now? Are you looking forward to what Cloud Imperium can do in the coming year? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you, as it's those comments and feedback that help shape the channel, and let me know what you think about the game, which is important because I want to know.
Ho ho ho, I'm a fat man with a beard, and I'm gonna sneak down your chimney and give you...
NordVPN. That's right, I'm BoredGamer. I am that fat man with a beard. And it's Nordmas. So what do you want in your stocking for Nordmas, little Timmy? I want NordVPN, with its useful security, privacy, and locational spoofing features. I also want a racing car set. Of course you do, but as I'm not sponsored by Racing Car Set, maybe you should shut your little mouth, Tim. Merry Nordmas! For December, we are giving away an Origin 400i with a Star Citizen game package and lifetime insurance. This is a luxury multi-role explorer ship for 1 to 3 players to run together. It's like a little yacht in space. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during December. If you'd like to further support the channel, please consider clicking that join button underneath my videos. You can also become a Patreon or even donate. Thank you so much for watching, please take care, and I'll see you in the verse.